Hi, welcome to the BariNation podcast, where we support the bariatric community with humor, humility, and honesty. I'm April.
And I'm Jason.
Miss Natalie is not feeling well today. We hope that she feels better soon. But we do have one of our most amazing, most favorite humans on the planet joining us today, Mr. Rodolfo Alvarez. Hi, Fred.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. We are so excited to talk to you today because it's on a topic that you are very passionate about, what we are all very passionate about in 2023, and that is really becoming the person who we want to be this year. So instead of starting with like what we want to achieve, I guess we kind of did start there, but really where our focus has shifted to is what kind of person do I need to be if I want to achieve those goals? Right. So we're really kind of flipping the script on how we're thinking about goals or how we're thinking about New Year's resolutions. And our topic for today is to understand why most people fail at achieving their New Year's resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's a staggering number.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's impressive. It's impressive. And I think that when we have these workshops of New Year resolutions or at the end of the year, nobody talks about that. Right? Yeah. The illusion is that we are going to be able to meet our goals 100%.
Right.
And that's not real.
No. And really, I think it in a way, kind of that thinking sets us up for failure, because I don't know about you guys, but I've never done anything in my life perfectly. I have never set out to say like, I'm going to achieve this goal. And it happened exactly the way that I thought it would. And like at the end, bingo. Right? Like, I mean, we've all achieved things in our life. Like, I've got a master's degree that's hanging on my wall. That piece of paper did not get there in the way that I thought it would. Right? Not at all. But if I would have given up when the first thing didn't go right, then it wouldn't be hanging on my wall. So when we say like, we're going to set this goal and we're going to do this thing exactly for a year, it almost never pans out, right? Like Rodolfo, what's the percentage of people that actually achieve their New Year's resolutions by the time the next year rolls around?
8%.
8%.
Yes, 8%.
Which is insane. So why do we keep banging our head against the walls, making these New Year's resolutions, knowing that we only have an 8% chance of achieving them? Is it just?
Well, I think the biggest thing about it is that the majority of people get in their head about what they want to do, and they create such a long, like a huge list. It's like an insurmountable, like I want to do this and this and this and this and this, and then you get to a point where it's almost like you're throwing out everything you did the year before, and you're trying to reinvent yourself on a whole new year. Like everything you did wasn't bad. Like think about some of the things you did more often than not, take those as wins and kind of parlay that into the next year. We always talk about, start with things that are easy wins for you. Like that's what if you're going to do any kind of resolutions, that's what it should be. It should just be to be a little bit better than you were the year before. That doesn't take a complete remaster of everything that you are and that who you are as a person. It just takes being a little bit better than you were last year.
Yeah. Right. And that whole idea of resolutions, it's like we tend to set these big, bold goals, right? Like these huge things that we want to accomplish, which is great. Like that's the human brain. We want to achieve a lot, right? We're driven to achieve. But now it kind of makes sense, right? We want to go big, but then we end up going home because only 8% of us actually reach those goals because we're not approaching them in the right way. So our goal for this conversation today, my friends, is really centered around mindset. But really what we want to know from you, Rodolfo, is how do we actually achieve our goals, right? So why do resolutions fail, number one? And then what steps can we take along the way to actually achieve what we have set out to do?
Mm-hmm. So I would like to share an hypothesis that I have that explains why this number, like why we have that statistic, okay? And I feel that the resolution sometimes can be a mechanism or a way to procrastinate. What do I mean with this? It's the end of the year. I'm very frustrated because I'm not accomplishing some results. And then I sell myself the idea that next year I will do the right thing, right? When actually, maybe that year I didn't do the correct things because when I did them, I was experiencing pain. So to me, the resolutions are actually a way to postpone that pain for the next year. But actually, then the year changes, you start the new year, and you have to face the same pain, and nothing changed. And that's why you don't meet your resolutions, because you have to face what you were not willing to face in the past. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
That's my
Makes it crazy.
hypothesis. And,
It makes it crazy
I
how
wanted
that
to bring
makes
it up. But it's a procrastinating mechanism.
I mean, holy shit. But that's so true. But oh my God, I feel like, were we just talking about this?
Yeah.
Right. That's like, we want to save it till the new year. Like, oh, I'm going to get this done in the new year, even though you're thinking about like November or December, and you push it off, and then you start doing the actions that are aligned to the goal. And then you realize, oh, this is hard, or, oh, I'm not doing it the right way, or I don't have the right skill, right? Whatever it is. And you stop doing it because you're not actually doing the work that you knew you had to do. Oh.
Yeah, I think that probably starts around mid-October. People start doing the push it off till next year and start thinking of these big resolutions they're going to have, because at the end of the year, you got Halloween and the candy, you got Thanksgiving coming up, you got Christmas, you got New Year's, you got all those things you want to do. And so your brain goes into next year mode already. You've checked out. So you're just like, yeah, we'll just push it. Like, it's cool. Like, we can just wait until after the new year, because I've got all these things coming up and I don't want to, it's pointless to eat right in between, because if I'm just going to go back to eating bad, or I'm just going to do this or have the candy bar, I might as well just rail the whole rest of the year and then start fresh January 1st.
It's the all or nothing thinking, right? It's the all or
Yes.
nothing.
So I can understand that in our minds, we need to plan things and create a strategy. And given that, we can say, oh, okay, so I will start in January and I will measure my accomplishments or my goals like in 1 year. I can understand that. But the point is the following. The best moment to invest in yourself or start investing in yourself and working towards your goals is today. It's not like in December or like next year. Like, it's not next year, it's now. Like, now your health is important. Now your relationships are important. Now your finances are relevant. So if you're thinking that in January, it will be a better moment, I really don't understand why, right? So that's why I'm saying that to me, this is a procrastinating mechanism to avoid experiencing pain. And then when January comes, right, the person needs to struggle with that pain. And they have to face what they were not like willing to face in the past.
Yes.
Well, and if they haven't used the previous year to gain the tools they need to get past it in January, they're still not going to get past it the next January. So it would be one thing if you were taking the time of the procrastination to build yourself up in a way that you will be able to face those things in January, but most people just don't do it. And that's another, like when I talk about how if you start the year with small goals and reach those goals, the resolutions or whatever your new plan for the new year doesn't just have to be in January. If you accomplish those goals by March, set new goals. You have the whole year. That's the whole plan.
100%, Jason. Yes.
You have 365 days to figure out what the next goal is going to be. And if you wind up smashing 3 or 4 of the smaller goals, that's going to be better than starting a huge list of goals and not accomplishing any of them.
Yes. Well, it reminds me of kind of what I told myself when I realized I only had 35 rides left to do to get to 100, to get to the Peloton Century Club, right, on the bike. All of a sudden I was like, I have 35 rides left. I really want to get this done before the new year, right? I could have postponed it. Totally. I could have said like, oh, I'm going to reach a century, in 2023. But I just thought, but why? What am I waiting for? There's no point in waiting or delaying this, because I'm just delaying it. And if movement is something that is important to me, if I want to become a person who moves, then I need to move every day, right? So when I set that goal, it was like, I don't need to wait. Like, it starts today, right? Like, I figured out like, here's when I'm going to ride. And then when I miss some days, I realized, oh crap, I have to double up some days now. I'm going to have to do 2 rides in one day if I want to still reach this goal. But I didn't give up on the goal. And I didn't just say like, oh, forget it, I'm never going to get there. I looked for ways to adjust. And instead of postponing it, I just said, no, this needs to get done. I need to make this a part of my life. So I definitely get that shift. And I understand why it's difficult. I didn't want to ride 2 times in one day. Most days, I didn't even want to ride one day. Are you kidding me? I'd walk up there and I'd look at that bike and I'd just start like screaming curse words at it. And it was like, yo, but you said you wanted to get to a Century Club by the 31st. So your ass is riding, you're going for 2 20-minute rides, not one.
Only one way to get there, and that's to get on the bike.
It is. The only way to get there is pedal. And I did it. And it was really interesting. When I did my century ride, there was like 12 people who joined me, which was awesome, right? It was wonderful. And I hit a PR. I hit a personal record. Awesome. But I didn't feel as like joyful as I thought I would. You know what I mean? It's like I got there and I was like, oh, cool, 100. But then I started thinking, I was like, but wait a minute. If I think that this is it, I'm just going to give up on movement. And if I want to become a person who moves every day, if I want to become a person who is like a body in action or motion, I can't stop at 100 rides. So in a way, it was kind of disappointing to reach that milestone, because you're like, oh, okay, right? It's like getting to the top of the mountain only to realize, oh, this was the first mountain in like a lifetime of mountain ranges that are ahead of me. Yeah. But again, if movement is something I want to do, I can celebrate that achievement, and I can plant that flag as Melanie described in last week's podcast episode, right? And I can say, nope, I did this. I really overcame some negative self-talk to get to 100. Cool. But now I keep moving. Now I keep doing.
One of the most profound things that I was watching a documentary on Shaq the other day, and he was talking about that. He said all through his life, when he played basketball, every time he won a trophy, his dad would let him keep it until they got home, and then he would take it from him and he would hide it. He never got to keep any of his trophies. And so he did the same thing when he got older and started winning championships and MVPs. He never displayed any. He put them all away, because he knew, like, if he sat in there and just looked at the trophies and the rings and all the accolades, he would be like, oh man, I'm doing pretty good. And he would get lax and lazy. So he said he put it all away because it was all about being in the moment. And then when he got home, it was time to go to work, because you got to do it again.
Yep. Well, and that really goes to the heart of what we want to talk to you about, Rodolfo. Like, how do we make this mindset shift, right? So how do we transition away from only focusing on the result that we want, to really putting our time and effort into understanding what is it going to take? Not only what are the actions, but like, who do I actually have to become at my core if I want to actually achieve that? So before we dive in, if this is the first time that somebody is hearing you or is like seeing your face, will you introduce yourself to our friends and followers?
Oh, yes, of course. My name is Rodolfo Alvarez. I'm a wellness coach. I'm from Chile, and I moved to Florida 6 months ago, actually, 7 months ago. And I've been an expert in BariNation since 2022, the beginning of 2022, so almost 1 year. Yes, and I'm glad to be here supporting the community.
Well, you are a wizard. I call you the Wizard of Miami, because you gave me a gift that I had worked like 20 years in therapy to get, and you gave it to me in like an hour of talking with you. So you are a straight wizard. You are highly skilled at what you do. And this is absolutely your wheelhouse, really identify, like helping people go from where they currently are to where they want to go. So I know this conversation is going to be spot on. So if you guys are ready, I say, let's dive in.
Yes, let's dive in. And I would like to ask you something. Can we start understanding why people don't meet those resolutions and sabotage themselves, like different causes? Because I shared my hypothesis, but I think that there are more reasons that I would like to explore.
Yes, great place to start.
Yes. So, well, one of the reasons or the causes is because people define unrealistic goals, right? So, for example, they declare an amount of weight that they want to lose that maybe is not healthy, right? Or maybe they want to work out and they start experiencing pain, right? Or they want to save money and then the market is not doing as well. So the first thing is to define goals that are achievable. That's the first thing. And in order to do that too, what you can do is define goals and then divide them in specific chunks, right? Or activities that you can accomplish that will allow you to achieve the great goal at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. But sometimes people like define a goal and then, for example, they are not prepared for setbacks, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know, I want to read and I think, or my goal is to read 2 books every month, right? And then I change jobs and I have to work more hours a day and then I'm not capable. I don't have the time, right? So you need to consider too that things are not going to be or go as well as you expect. because that's how life works.
Yes, I've already experienced it this year. I mean, I have a goal to do 100 rides, 100 walk runs, 100 rows, and 100 something else. I'm missing something else. Oh, strength. I did my first strength workout 2 days ago. I still can't sit down without like being in pain. And here I was thinking like, oh, I'm going to bust out all these workouts. It's going to be fabulous. Yo, I used 3 and 5 pound dumbbells. I can't sit down without being in pain 2 days later. So I need to readjust. I need to readjust some thinking there. Yeah. And I know you know what I'm talking about, Jason, because you've done the same thing too.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, absolutely. I do that all the time. I go in there with big aspirations and high hopes, and then my body's like, "Hey, you forgot you're old, dude. Like, you need some rest time built in there, buddy, because you can't just back to back it at the gym like you used to." So yeah, no, trust and believe. I understand.
Yep. And Rodolfo, I love what you said about, as my dad would call it, the downstream math, right? So it's great that you've set this goal that's based on, like a frequency of something. But to read 2 books a month would, if you really sat down and did the math, that would mean you're reading like an hour or 2 a day, possibly, right? Depending on the book. That's more time than what most people actually have in a day to dedicate towards that. So to actually go that very important step of saying, okay, I have this goal, but what does that actually look like day to day? And like what you said, like we have to build in some cushion because life is crazy and life happens randomly. So as soon as we miss that one day, or all or nothing thinking, or that imposter syndrome, it's going to be like, yo, you already messed this up. I don't even know why you're still doing this. You can't do it perfectly. Why are you doing it at all? It's how we derail ourselves from reaching our goals.
Yeah, and also what you can do too is check your data from the past. Like, for example, I would like to save a specific amount of money, but I know that in the last years, every year I had additional expenses that I wasn't considering. Oh, so this year I need to consider those expenses too. And maybe I will not be able to save what I'm wanting to save, and I need to reduce the amount of money that I'm defining.
Yes.
Yes.
Again, I did that with working out and moving, right? In my brain, if I commit to doing something, I think I'm going to be perfect at it. I'm going to master that in like the first or second try. I'm going to be perfect at it. Like, nope, I'm going to climb a mountain and I'm going to do it the very first time. What? Like, are you kidding me? Based on my past experience, I've never climbed a mountain in my life. Why would I think that I could do that on the very first time? And I think we all do that because, well, we all kind of suffer from the imposter syndrome. Like, I'm an expert. I should be able to do this. I'm smart. I've got paper hanging on my wall that says that I can do this, right? But most of the stuff we've never done before, and we think that we're going to be experts at it right away.
Well, and most people start with not just hey, let's climb a mountain. They'd be like, hey, let's jump Everest. Like, let's go ahead and get locked in. Like, I'm going to try to do this, no oxygen. Let's go. And then 200-300 feet into it, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. And then you just slide back down to the bottom because it's not, like Rodolfo said, it's not attainable. Like, you have to set something, things that are attainable, things that you have the data to prove you can do, that you've done in the past. Like, don't just automatically decide you're going to win the whole year in January. And because you don't, you're like, yeah, screw it. Like, you've got, like, people think if they don't have a perfect January, that the whole rest of the year's shot. No, that's why it's a New Year's resolution. You have a year to figure it out. It doesn't have to be perfect in January.
Yeah. And I love that word that you just used, my friends, right? Stretch. We can look at what we've done in the past and we can stretch that goal just a little bit, right? Not a lot. So like when I got to 100 Peloton rides, it was like, okay, I got to 100 Peloton rides. Granted, it took me 3 years and 4 house moves and whatever, right? But when I looked at that, instead of me saying, I'm going to get in 300 Peloton rides this year, my goal for this year is 100. I need to do 100 in 1 year because it took me 3 years to get in my first. So even
but it also only took you how long to get those last 35?
Yeah, 6 weeks, 7 weeks.
Okay. So see, that's an attainable goal. If you can do 35 in 7 weeks, you can definitely do 100 in 52 of them.
I can if I stay consistent.
If you stay consistent.
Yes. Right. So really looking at that goal and making a determination, right? Is this a leap or am I stretching what evidence has shown me? And if your goal is related to weight loss or meal prepping or finances or anything like that, right? It is really important that we look past and go, okay, what is actually just a stretch for me instead of this big giant leap? Because if we set ourselves up for success with these smaller attainable goals, we're more likely to achieve them, right, at the end of the year. Gotcha. All right.
There's a concept called progressive success. So if I accomplish something, I increase like the level of difficulty a little, right? So a 5%. And then when I achieve the new number, I increase a little, and then I increase a little, and I keep increasing. And at the end, I will be where I want to be, right? But the secret was to not push ourselves more than we are capable of.
Again, I could use my freaking strength workout training for that. I was beating myself up mentally so hardcore over the fact that I had to use 3-pound weights, right? And I was so sore the day after. And all I could think about was like, God, April, you are so weak sauce. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, why are you even trying this? You're never going to get there, right? But we're all beginners at some point. And I really had to fight past that negative mentality and just say, it doesn't matter where you start. The only thing that matters is that I have started, right? And there's proof that I'm making progress. I mean, I have nothing but PR records on the Peloton in that 7 weeks that I committed to my 100 rides. So I can even see myself improving, you know, in that way, even on the days when I hop on the bike and I'm so tired and I am feeling weak sauce and I just need to take it slow. It's okay because I can look on that leaderboard and I can say, no, I leveled up. So even though it feels some days like I'm doing this, which I am doing this, right? Every time I'm doing this. And that's the goal, right? Like you're making these incremental improvements, not this big, huge, giant leap forward.
I mean, our journey is the same way. It looks the same exact way. Like you're never just going to lose all your weight and be straight down. There's going to be plateaus involved in that, so it's the same. And like what Rodolfo was saying, like if you do something to excess and you feel pain doing that, that's what you're going to, your mind is automatically going to take you there, and you're going to have the negative connotation toward whatever it is. So if you put it off to next year, you're automatically going to think back to, well, I remember the last time I tried to work out and I was so sore and everything hurt and I pulled, a muscle in my arm. Like, and then that's all you're not going to think about the gains you had. You're not going to think about the progress you saw. You're only going to connect with the pain because that's what you feel most.
It's the self-fulfilling prophecy that Melanie was talking about.
Yes.
Yes,
Right?
and in terms of limiting thoughts, what Jason is mentioning is collecting evidence, right? That you are not capable, that you don't want that it's painful, etc. But you are validating your original thought, actually, which maybe was that I can't.
Yes.
And those are dots that are very easy to connect. Aside from when you're trying to connect dots with the positive side of things, you're going to find it's going to be that the negative evidence is going to fight you way harder than the positive evidence will be defined. So that's one thing that you really have to, why it's so important that you start with goals that you can achieve and attain, because once you build enough of the positive evidence, that negative evidence actually gets harder to find.
Yes. Right. And I think we're just so used to acknowledging or seeing or like listening to that negative evidence because we've done it for years, decades, right? Our entire life. So when it feels like it is a challenge to look for the good or to fight back against that, you are correct. It is a challenge because this is not what you're used to doing. Right. But like what Rodolfo was saying, and as Melanie said last week in the podcast, we can flip the script on that self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because it does work in the opposite direction. If I am telling myself, I will get stronger, I will get better, I will figure this out, it's going to take time, right? But if we're saying to ourselves, I can do this, our brains will start looking for evidence that we are doing it. And that's how we really use that mindset for a positive gain, because our brain is wired to win. And if we equate winning in our brains with the negative, it's going to look for the negative. It's wired to win. But if we equate winning with that positive, it's going to look for the positives. It is wired to win. But the work of weight loss surgery is training your brain to look for those things time and time and time again. And you are breaking the mold, right? You're going from one mindset to another. You're literally changing your brain.
Yeah.
No wonder why it's hard.
And your mind will equate winning with losing. Like whatever it is you didn't accomplish, that's a win in your mind, because Your mind was trying to tell you all along you couldn't do it. So when you don't do it, your brain registers that as a win.
Oh my God. I can, the one book that I've read that I actually have like chucked across a room. It's Gary Bishop's book. It's got
The Slight Edge.
No, not the Slight Edge. It's got the F word in it. I'll find it's in my cabinet.
Unfuck Yourself.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. How to Unfuck Yourself. I think is like the legit title of the book. And in that chapter, there was one chapter that he was like, your brain's wired to win. Like you're obviously winning. You're getting something out of not doing what you say you want to do. And I was like, fuck you. You know, I got so pissed and I was like, oh, this guy's full of shit. You know, just like, no. But that was like the first time that I'd really understood that concept. And then when I really, you know, opened my eyes and my brain to what he was saying, and then all of the other research that's out there about our brains and limiting beliefs and all this kind of stuff, it's like, oh, that is true. Our brain is wired to win. I need to retrain what it means to win. And that's what we're talking about. Okay. What are some other reasons that we don't achieve our goals?
Because there's a lack of accountability. So people try to do their best and they convince themselves that doing their best, right, they will achieve the result. And actually, it's not about that. You need to measure your progress. You can't improve the things that you are not measuring, right? And I've seen that in the accountability cohort last year, actually. And I saw that with myself, actually. For years, I was trying to lose some body fat, right? And I was trying my best. I went to the gym. I was trying to eat healthy, right? Trying. I think that's the key word here. And the last year, at the end in October, I started working with a coach and I had to weigh myself, like track my meals, everything. And finally, I started like seeing results. And it's so like satisfying when you're able to confirm that your actions, when you do them properly, they generate a result and you have the control of like that to me is like priceless. So I would like to invite the people that is listening to us to track the progress. Like accountability is essential. If you're not measuring, then you will be lost and you will not know that you're lost.
Oh, 100%.
Right? We say this all the time. You can't change what you don't track.
No, and you'll tell yourself what a great job you're doing. I pat myself on the back all the time about how great I'm doing. Of course, I leave out a lot of the shit. I leave out a lot of the shit that I'm doing that I know is wrong because I'm not going to talk bad. I'll just be like, oh, no, man, you did great. Like, you probably could have done a little bit better, but for the most part, you did really good. But then you step on the scale and you're like, oh, damn.
Yeah, the scale doesn't lie, right? It doesn't lie. Yeah.
No, well, and we know when we're not being truthful with ourselves, but I think we just get so disappointed, right? It's the limiting beliefs, it's the imposter, right? It's that self, I mean, all of these mindsets just come back because again, we are also wired for ease and change is hard. And our brains do not want us to expend any energy doing something that, right, that's going to make us work. And that's why it's so difficult to change, to achieve these things that are different. But when you really do hold yourself accountable, you are forced to acknowledge what you are doing and what you are not doing. And that is difficult for people, which is why accountability partners are huge. I mean, it's one of the reasons that I was able to get to 100 Peloton rides. I lead a movement accountability group in BariNation, and I had to be accountable to other people that wanted to make movement a part of their life. And if I'm not, leading the way, or if I'm not showing what I'm doing, then I'm not being accountable to them or to me. So finding those people or finding a space where you can be held accountable in a way that works for you can be a critical, important piece to achieving our goals.
Well, and the sad part about it is we'll give up on ourselves real quick. Like we'll be the first ones to be like, I can't do it. It's no big deal. But that's why you see a lot of people like, oh, I can't. I love having a gym buddy because going to the gym with somebody that holds me accountable to go. Because if I'm actually meeting someone, then I don't want to let that person down. Or if I'm trying to do a workout online or whatever it is, I'm following a program with somebody else, online, I don't want to let that person down. So that's why accountability partners are so vital in this situation, is because if there's nobody watching, it's just as easy to go sit down than it is for me to go to the gym. So, and that way the only person I'm letting down is me, and I've been doing that my whole life. So it doesn't get any harder to do that. I can just be like, it's cool. It's just me. We can do it again tomorrow. Like, we'll try. It's another lie you tell yourself, that you're just going to do it again tomorrow. And those tomorrows just pile up until next thing you know, it's November and you're like, oh, well, let's try all this new year, new me thing. Because at the end of the day, like if you don't have any skin in the game, like the worst thing is going to be is you're going to prove yourself right by letting yourself down.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle that I think we all know well. And for whatever reason, after surgery, we can see that cycle more clearly, I think, than ever before. And we just reach a point, I think, in our lives, in our journey, whatever you want to call it, where you're just so tired of that cycle. You're just so tired of it. And you have more energy, you have more clarity, you have more capacity to tackle these things that you've been wanting to do your whole life. And I think that's why we see, especially in the community, all of a sudden people are like, I'm going to do all the things, right? The Everest, right? I'm going to eat right. I'm going to do this. I'm going to work out. I'm going to take my vitamins. I'm going to get my master's degree. I'm going to do all the things.
I'm going to give back to the community. I'm going to do this. And they have grand plans, which are all amazing plans.
Yes.
But it's the old adage of, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Like, nobody's going to you don't just take it all down at once. You do just baby steps. Like, we're got to crawl before you walk. Like, let's not try to start off in a 100-yard dash.
Yeah. And I think there's this, I know for me personally, there was almost a sense of panic. It was like, oh my God, I've wasted, quote unquote, right? I've wasted so many years. I need to do all the things right away. And I just threw myself into everything. Well, that's like the quickest way to burn out. It's the quickest way to not actually achieving anything, and to find yourself right back, where you started. And it is so important to really recognize when that is happening in your life, and to step back and just go, all of these goals I can achieve in my lifetime. I need to pick one, and I just need to focus on that one. Like, everything else is going to be there. These goals are not going away, but I physically, mentally, I do not have the time or capacity to do all of this at one time, because you're talking about massive, massive change. And I think that's kind of what the new year, new me implies. Everything's got to change. It's a completely new year. I'm going to be a completely different person. That is not possible. That is not even close to possible. Yeah. So are there other reasons that we tend to give up on our goals or not achieve our resolutions?
Yes. So another cause could be self-doubt. And what do I mean with self-doubt? For example, let's say that I defined a specific goal in terms of weight. So I stick to my plan, I follow my diet, and then I weigh myself. And when I see the number in the scale, it's not a happy number. So given that, I start telling myself that I'm not capable, that I will not be able to accomplish my goal. And then those thoughts start generating a sabotage in the future, right? Or for example, let's say that I would like to find a new job. So it's the end of the month and I sent some applications, I networked, but I'm not getting any result. And then I tell myself that no one will be interested in me, or no one will be interested in hiring me, right? So then what I do is to maybe stop the process and I avoid interactions. And then with that, of course, I will not accomplish my result. So I use failing as evidence to prove something wrong about my identity. And then that's what make me fail.
Yep. Well, again, it's like, it's the conversation we have with Melanie. It's that imposter syndrome, and it's the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If I'm thinking all of these negative things, I'm going to continue to look for them, right? And then we get into this cycle of, I'm not good enough, I'm never going to achieve it, I'm never going to, right? I'm never. And we just continue that cycle of self-doubt. And every time we don't achieve what we say we're going to do, it's another like, see, I told you, you're never going to figure this out, right? You just continue that.
Totally. And we should understand that in our journeys, there will be setbacks. things will not work perfectly. We will fail, right? And if we fail, we can learn the lesson, understand what wasn't working, redesign ourselves, and then keep going, keep moving forward. That's the mission. But sometimes what we do is that we fail and then we build interpretations around those events. And those interpretations could be limiting thoughts. So I tell myself that no one will hire me. I'm not capable to create a healthy relationship with food. I don't like to work out, or working out is painful for me, etc., etc., etc. So the mission. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
What I was saying is that the mission is to be aware of those moments in which we build these thoughts and then reframe them. That's the mission.
Well, and a lot of, instead of just having to completely, rebuild after we don't hit the mark that we set out for ourselves, a lot of it is just course correction, which can just be a slight alteration in the plan. Like if a road is closed, you take a detour. You don't just go back home and say, well, I guess when the road opens up, I'll go back on my trip. You just course correct a little bit. You just take a little bit of a turn there, and that's something that really will lead us to a much better outcome than us trying to just completely redo everything just because we didn't hit the goal one time. So it's all about those small little course corrections that you can make that are really going to lead you to the promised land.
I'm like furiously writing notes. That's why I keep like looking down. I'm like, oh my God, right? Because I think we've all heard these, or we've read these things. We've listened to them in a lot of different places. I just know for me, I'm going to need to hear something 100 times because I'm not going to really fully understand it 99 times. It's that 100th time that it's like, oh my gosh, yes, right? And that course correction analogy just makes so much sense to me, because I think like when we're talking about this topic, we think that there's some like magic formula, or there's this one thing that we have to do and that's going to solve it. I used to have a really hard time believing that the work to make these changes was really just all up here. I thought there was like a book or something like physical that I could do, and that would be the thing that would solve this mindset issue for me. But it's not. It is these tiny little moments where we pause ourselves and we change what we're saying to ourselves up here. That is the work. Like if you're looking for something grand or some big thing that you can do, it's not it. You're looking in the wrong place. The change happens in these very tiny moments where we catch ourselves saying something negative to ourselves, and we just pause it and we go, okay, no, I can't think like this anymore. I can't believe this anymore. I can't take action on this thought anymore. I have to do something different in this moment. And that pause feels like 100 years. It's monumental. And you don't think, I never believed that just tweaking that thought is going to be the thing that changes it for me. But I'm so tired of not making the tweak and then continuing to live my life, to think the same things, right? Yeah. We've been saying it constantly these past couple of months. If we want to live a different life, we have to live a different life. But not only that, we have to think a different life. We have to act a different life, like all of these things. And it is these small little moments, like what both of you guys were talking about. It's just flipping the script on what we're saying to ourselves up here in very small increments.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the loudest, it's like I said, the loudest voice you'll hear all day is the one inside your head. Make sure it says nice things or the correct things. Yeah. Because you can bash yourself all day long, but we've done that all our lives and we saw where that got us. So if we're going to make these changes, why don't we start with the easiest one, which is not the easiest one, but start with the one that's closest to us, which is, the negative self-talk.
Yeah. Well, and like with self-doubt, I've doubted myself my entire life, but somehow I've been able to achieve really great things. Right. Even though self-doubt, that self-doubt has always been a part of who I am. And I think it's always been a part of who everybody is. And for a lot of reasons, I was able to overcome it and earn multiple degrees and build a house and have a successful career and, be in a loving, healthy, marriage. I doubted my ability to do all of those things. But yet, for whatever reason, I'm allowing self-doubt to creep into this aspect of my journey now. I don't not quite understand why. Maybe it's like the last thing. Maybe I'm worried that after I figure this out, I won't have anything else to work on. I don't know.
Oh, that's cute. It'll just be done.
Right?
It's never done.
It's
There's no
never
finish
done.
line.
It's never done. And I think a part of the battle that goes on in my head is like, but I just want to be done. I just want to be done so I can rest. You know what I mean? Like, I just get this feeling of like, I'm just so exhausted. I'm just so tired of always doing this. But then the flip side that terrifies me is, oh my God, but what if there's nothing left for me to learn? What if there's nothing else for me to do? So I have to hang on to this so I always have something to work on.
Right.
It's like, bish, you got an entire bookshelf behind you that says you got lots to learn.
Right. Well, you think, okay, so think about, like, we talk about building the perfect bariatric toolbox post-op. Think about a mechanic. A mechanic has a toolbox that it's 10 foot tall and, 8 feet wide, and it's got all the drawers with every tool you can imagine. When he gets done working on one job, guess what? There's another one coming behind it. He will continuously use all of those tools to get the job done. And that's exactly what we're doing in our bariatric life. We're building the toolbox we need, because there's always going to be something broke. There's going to be a squeaky wheel. There's going to be a leaky pipe. There's going to be a dripping faucet. There's going to be something that's going to need a little bit of, and it may not need a complete overhaul, but it's going to need a little bit of tweaking, because things wear out over time under pressure. And this is pressure. We're living the life where we are trying to get pressure off of ourselves so that we can make it to the next stage of the journey. But that comes with repairs, that comes with maintenance, that comes with all of the things that need to get done. And, without using the tools that we've acquired, it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah. Well, and I'm reminded of my dad. My dad can fix, engineer, come up with anything. And the man's brain is hopefully being donated to science. But the thing that just cracks me up is, he has every tool known to man. I swear to God. But every Christmas or every birthday, whatever, right? My mom or Grady, my husband, or my sister, or I will find some new tool that's just been invented or whatever at Home Depot or Ace Hardware or whatever, right? And we're like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I don't think Dad has that. And sure as shit, we'll give it to him and he'll be like, well, look at that. I've never seen this before. I don't have this tool. And then, like a month later, he'll call me and he'll be like, you'll never believe it. I used the tool to fix this thing that broke and it was the perfect thing. And you're like, oh my God. Right. So just because we get a tool and don't use it right away doesn't mean it's not going to be valuable along the way. Right. But the flip side of that is true. There's always going to be something ahead that is going to need to be fixed. It's not like this is never going to break. There's always going to be something out there.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if you haven't achieved a specific result in the past, it's because there were limitations or blockages. So right now, thinking that the journey should be easy and every week you should accomplish your goals and everything should go smooth, like that's not realistic again, right? So we need to consider that we will struggle, right? We don't have the goal because for us, it was challenging. So the journey will be challenging too. That's included in the journey. So failing is a part of it. If you fail, that doesn't define you or doesn't have any other deep meaning.
No, first attempt at learning is what we talk about when we talk about failure. And a lot of times we're using data that's skewed in the first place, because we'll think back and go, well, the last time I tried to do such and such a eating healthy or exercising, I couldn't get it done. Well, guess what? That was probably pre-op and you didn't have the tools that you have now. So when you tried to eat right or you tried to do this thing, you didn't have the energy, you hurt yourself, it was hard to move. We all had limited mobility post-op or pre-op. So now that we're post-op, we take that time to learn the new things because we have tools now we didn't have before. So giving yourself the benefit of the doubt when it comes to that kind of thing, to think not only is the data that you're using not going to apply at this point in time, your manual's out of date. Like, just fast forward to now and let's write a new menu. Like, it doesn't have to be, you think back and go, yeah, I know. Back when I tried to work out in 2005, it was super hard. Well, guess what? There's been so many volumes written past 2005. Like, you wouldn't use a textbook from 2005. You wouldn't be like, there's nothing like, you wouldn't use your standard operating procedures at work from 2005. They get updated. Like, I know for me, like, we get new operations almost every day at work. So think about, you're creating new data as you go post-op, and that's what you need to focus on, not stuff that happened pre, because it's not the same.
Yep. And it just dawned on me as we were talking here too, I think going into surgery, you know what lies ahead is going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. But until you're there, you don't understand the depth of just how hard this is going to be. Mm-hmm. And in so many ways, it is disappointing and it is frustrating and it is like a slap in the face, right? Because I think in my brain, I was like, nothing is going to be as hard as living as an obese person, right? Like it just can't be this hard. Like, I know it's going to be hard, but it's got to be a little bit easier. That's the whole reason I'm having surgery. So this can be a little bit easier. And it's true. There are a lot of things after surgery that are easy, but there are so many parts of this that are just excruciatingly painful and hard, much harder than how I was living before, because at least how I was living before, I understood that suffering. I understood, like, I think Melanie said it too in that podcast. I know how to survive. I wasn't thriving, but I sure as hell know how to survive. And now I feel like I'm not surviving. I'm not thriving. Like, why did I do all of this? Because at least I understood that. Right. Yeah. So you get to this point after surgery and you're just like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And you just don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, you'll always reach a point where it just seems like it's too hard. But the hardest thing we've already done, which was agree to that we needed assistance and have the surgery in the first place. Yeah. We talked ourselves into it. We did all the steps. We went through all the things, the liquid diets, all the stuff that we've done to get where we are now. So, and I still don't know one person that won't say that it's worth it, but nobody says it's easy, and that's fine. It can be hard, but what we found is that we can do hard things. We've done hard things. We've had hard conversations, and we're still here. So embrace the suck, work on it every single day, but just realize that it's not something that has to be done all at once, because it's not going to be. It's impossible. You have the rest of your life to figure it out. You don't have the first 12 months. You don't have the honeymoon period. You don't have all the stuff that people talk about. Like, those are real things that happen, but you don't have to have it all figured out the first 12 months. Like, you wouldn't walk up to a 12-month-old toddler and be upset with them if it's, my son that can't speak fluent Spanish at 12 months old. Guess what? You weren't raised in that environment. You don't know shit about Spanish. So guess what? You're not going to figure it out. The same thing, we don't know anything about what we're doing here. You just have to figure it out as you go along. And you're going to have stages of the journey post-op, and that's fine. It's not going to be a linear movement. You're going to run into stuff, but it's all about how you handle the obstacles that you run into versus just throwing your hands up and being like, well, I don't know how to do this, so I'm just going to go back to doing what I did before. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a level of giving up on yourself that nobody would allow you to do. Like, nobody's going to be excited for that. Most of all, yourself. You can tell yourself that it's easier to go back to living like you did before, but we all know that that's the biggest lie we could tell ourselves.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know, Jason and Rodolfo, you've reached this point too, right? You really kind of come to this like precipice, or the stage that we call the commitment. And I think everybody along the change spectrum, right, from going from A to B, you face this moment. You get to this point where you've made just enough changes to where it's going to cost you to move forward and continue to live your life where you've made the change, or it's going to cost you to go back, right? Like, you are paying a price now, and you really do have to make a decision. Okay, do I want to live my life in this new direction? Do I want to commit to these changes? Or do I want to go back to what was comfortable and live my life as I used to? And we really do have to make a choice, because no matter what you choose, there is a cost involved.
Always, always. And yeah, I would like to share that I think that my overweight was related to emotional eating. So the emotion that I covered in the past was anxiety mostly. And in the present, I have found myself in moments in which I'm experiencing like tons of anxiety. And there's a part of my mind saying, disconnect from this emotion, like you can eat something now. And of course, in those moments, there's a tough choice to make, which is, do I want to eat something and cover the emotion and feel better, or at the least disconnect from what I'm feeling? Or I really want to process the emotion, experience it, and experience pain. And it's hard, and it's a work that lasts forever. So what you said, April, and I totally agree. You always pay a price. The question is, which price would you like to pay? That's the question. And choosing it.
Yeah. Right. Because there's been plenty of moments along this journey where I've chosen my old life, and the price I paid was steep. And the more that I choose my new life, the price goes down just ever so slightly. Right. Some days it's a lot, but most days, no, it's the price I have to pay to choose this new bariatric life is much less than the price I pay when I choose my old life. And right, and the further distance I can get, between those two price points, so to speak, just means that I'm getting to the point where a lot of these decisions are just, it's easier now to make the decision of my new life than to make a decision that aligns with my old life.
Well, and even in the days where it's the hardest, you may not do the things that are going to propel you forward. And that's okay. There's going to be days where it's just too hard to move forward. So in those days, just don't go back. You can sit still. Like, you can tread water all day long. That is a win, because you didn't go back.
Yeah.
You don't,
Right.
every day's not going to be a 10 steps forward day.
Yeah.
There may be a 2 or a no step forward day. Just don't take the steps back.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed 1,000%. So I know we've kind of talked about like what we can do along the way, right? To achieve these goals. But if you were really to summarize, what are the steps, what are the things, what are the actions that we can do each and every day to help us achieve our goals, to help us really see our resolutions met at the end of this year?
So what I would suggest is to focus on being instead of doing. What do I mean with this? For example, if I want to lose weight, instead of focusing on following the diet, I should focus on being aware, being wise, and being connected to the needs of my body. If I listen to my body, I listen to my needs, then I will be able to satisfy them, right?
Mhm.
If I'm focusing on following the diet, like eating at the time, restricting myself, if I'm focusing on that, that will not be sustainable in the long run. Like I'm going to get to a point in which I will be experiencing so much pain, and I will decide to quit this journey, right? If I'm focusing on being aware, then I'm in the present. I can follow actions, like, for example, stick to my plan. That could be an action, but there are more actions available too, which are, for example, related to listening to our bodies and satisfying our needs and getting pleasure. So the journey is a journey in which I'm in the present and I'm able to have a journey in which I experience pleasure too, not just pain or being restricted. I think that, like, in our society, we're very, I don't know, like, we focused a lot on doing things, doing, right? So I need to work out, I need to go out, I need to like call people, but actually we don't focus on who are we being in those moments. If I call a friend and I'm not being connected, I don't know if that call will make sense or meet its purpose, right?
Mhm.
If I'm, for example, following my diet, but I'm not listening to my body, I don't know if I have a balanced relationship with food, actually. What I know is that maybe I have a lower intake of calories, but that doesn't mean that my relationship with food is a healthy one and I feel in control of my relationship with food, right? If I, for example, date and I'm going out, right? And I have lots of dates, but in those dates, I'm not connecting, Those dates will not create a deep connection with someone, right? So at the end, my invitation is to be in the present, connect to your resources, right? And think about your next step in the present, right? And that at the end will lead you to follow some actions that will take you to your result. If, for example, you want to add movement to your life, focus on commitment, focus on being connected to your body. Why? Because that will help you in moments in which things are not easy. Weeks ago, we had this polar vortex, right? And maybe the weather was terrible. And I imagine that lots of people didn't want to work out because of that. And of course, in those moments, it's easy to say, oh, you know what, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, I will postpone this. But if you're connected to your real motivation and to the person that you want to be, and maybe you want to be a person connected to your body, and like you want to add movement to your life, right? An energized person, if you're connected to that motivation, that will help you in that moment to say, you know what, I will go out anyways, or I will do something inside of my home. And I will start immediately because I'm committed, I'm persistent. That's what I'm deciding for my life. And my decision starts today, in this moment, now, which is the opposite of what we discussed at the beginning of the podcast. We talked about procrastinating the pain, remember? Delaying it, thinking about the new years and a new year in which I'm going to do things that today maybe I don't want to do because I experience pain. The invitation is to connect to the present and taking action now, and maybe experience that pain, but not just that pain, the pleasure to be in the present too. And starting now, in this moment.
Yes. Delaying that pain is not going to make it go away. It's just simply delaying it. And really, we're going to be in two pain points, right? Because we're in pain now because we know that we're delaying it, but we're also going to be in pain until we actually take action on that, right? So we're just keeping ourselves in this shame cycle of, oh, I'm never going to figure this out. I'm never going to achieve this. Oh, right. But if you just did one little action that was aligned to who you want to be or aligned to your goal, you're going to exit yourself from that shame cycle or from that pain cycle. And you're going to enter the, oh, wow, good job. You know, I did that. That feels very different than staying stuck and locked where you're at now. Right.
And if you want to be organized, the best moment to be organized is now.
Yeah.
And it starts being organized in this moment, right? Yes. If you want to be committed, the best moment to be committed is right now, right? So the invitation is to focus on that. And then given that you are committed, given that you're connected, given that you're organized, given that you're empowered, think about the actions that you will follow.
Yeah.
And then the actions will be there.
Yeah.
Will be resources available for you. But if you are not wanting to be empowered and you want to run a business, you will maybe start with a business, then you will fail, and then you will not continue.
Yeah. We always start with, right? We start with the end and we just focus on the end, but really we need to be focusing on, okay, that's great that this is my goal, but who do I actually have to become if I'm going to achieve those goals, right? If I say I want to be a marathon runner, cool. What do I actually need to do to become a marathon runner? And then what is the type of person? What are the values or what are the things that I would be telling myself along the way to doing those actions to becoming a marathon runner, right? We really need to flip the script on that. Yeah. And I know
I wanted to say that there was a quote, which was something like, focus on being someone efficient or effective instead of someone that do things all the time.
Yeah. Yes. Well, like this year, I mean, when I look back on my year last year, I felt out of control. I didn't feel very powerful. I felt disconnected from everybody. Right. And I was just exhausted. And I just thought, I can't keep living like this. Right. So I really want to feel in control this year. I want to feel powerful. I want to feel rested and I want to feel connected. And it's not that I'm doing something every single day to feel all of those things, but I am pausing and taking time to reflect and go, did I do things today that helped me feel these way, feel the way that I want to feel? And if I didn't feel that way that day, then I made a plan my following day to feel those things or feel one of those things. And moving every day helps me feel a little bit more powerful, like physically powerful, right? Like I'm building muscle, like, that helps with that. And it also helps me feel in control of the decisions that I'm making, right? Like if I say that movement is a part of my life and it's important to me, that is how I can take control of my health. So it is helping me be in control, right? So that's how I'm really kind of like living this year based on what you have taught us, Rodolfo, right? It's great to start with the end in mind, but I really need to step back and go, who do I need to become then if I'm going to achieve these things? And instead of focusing on these concrete numbers or concrete things that I can check off, I'm checking in with myself every single day. Am I feeling this way? And if not, what am I going to do tomorrow? Or what am I going to do for the rest of the day that will help me feel those things, feel that way? It's a different approach for sure. But I do feel a shift in what I'm understanding and what I'm accomplishing.
Well, it's the whole, a goal without a plan is just a wish. Like if you don't set yourself up with a plan to achieve the goal, and it's not an all at once plan, it's a little bits at a time. Like you don't make an 1,100-mile trip all at one time. You section it off. Like I'm going to stop here and get gas. We're going to stop here and go to the bathroom. We're going to stop here and get lunch. Like it's there's going to be stops along the way. You just have to make, a plan of how you're going to attack the goal. The goal is the end result, but how are you going to get there? If you don't have the map, you got to draw out your map.
Bingo. Rodolfo, my friend, is there any thought or bit of wisdom that you want to make sure people leave with today? Like what, if we really had to, like distill all that we talked about into one kind of like statement, what do you think is the most important thing people can do to achieve the goals they've set out for themselves this year?
Why do you make me choose one? Because I'm thinking about two and I don't know which one to pick. Can I share two?
Fine, I will. We will allow two.
We'll make an exception today for me. Okay, thank you. So the first one is to understand that there's no better moment to start than today. Today is the best moment. If you want to postpone something, start in the future, delay it in the future, you will go through the same journey, right? So start today. That's the first thing. And then the second, stop, focus on who you want to be. And then given that, connect to the resources that you have available. And in the future, you will attract the result. Instead of doing things that maybe are not aligned with the person that you are, and at the end will not work out and will not be sustainable. So again, if you want to lose weight, focus on being aware and create a balanced relationship with food and satisfy your needs instead of sticking to an eating plan that would be restrictive and will make you experience pain and is not sustainable.
As
That's
always,
what I had to say.
Yeah. Dropping the wizard level knowledge on us, as always. My friend, where can people follow you? Where can they find you if they want to continue the conversation with you?
Yes, they can follow me on Instagram. My account is Rodolfo Alvarez X. That's my account. Actually, if they are listening to us and they would be interested in working with me or having a meeting, they can schedule a discovery session, which is a session in which I will help them to discover the roots of their blockages. That's what I do in a session in an hour, actually. In my Instagram, they will find a link that they can click to schedule the discovery session. And of course, if they are members of BariNation, they can join the Being Me in 2023 cohort. And if they are not members of BariNation, they can join BariNation, right? There are some good opportunities that I imagine that you will share, April, for them to join BariNation. So that's my invitation. And we will focus on who are you being in order to accomplish your results during this year. So
what I love most about your accountability cohort in BariNation is that you are holding space every single week for accountability. And in those meetups, you are taking time to really get to know everybody who's in, and there's a lot of people who are doing it, which is amazing, but you really are tracking people's goals, you're tracking their progress, right? You are helping them really identify, okay, who do you need to be if you want to achieve this? But you're also teaching people these little nuggets of wisdom along the way, right? Like I know you've got a session coming up on time management. You have a session coming up on focusing. You have a session coming up on like self-accountability.
Habits.
and habits, right? So you're really breaking down all of these little tools that people are going to need along the way and delivering them in these like bite-sized chunks so that we can onboard this learning, try it out for the week, and then check back in with you the following week to say like, how did it go? Like, did it work? Did it not? What did you notice? What did you discover? And then you've got all of these people who are there to like encourage and support you along the way. It's genius. It's absolutely amazing. What you're doing in that space is just phenomenal. And people really are getting a lot out of time with you. And it is such an awesome opportunity to get so much time with you too, in that sense. Like your discovery sessions are amazing, right? Like that's how I realized you were as good at what you do as what you do, right? In 1 hour, like I said, you truly gave me a word to describe what I'd been searching for 20 years. And you did that in an hour. What? Never before had I experienced that. So the discovery session is amazing. But if you really want to get to know Rodolfo and you want to get to know him as a person, and you really want to continue to access all of the things that he can teach you, becoming a BariNation member and then joining this cohort or going to all of the classes that he teaches or watching the hundreds of hours, I think at this point, of recorded content that Rodolfo has done for us is worth its weight in gold. And the nice thing too about BariNation membership, you can go to as many support groups, as many classes, as many cohort meetups as you want for your membership. It's an unlimited membership. So if you want to go to 5 things a day, you can do that. If you want to go to 1 thing a week, you can do that. We really built it so that you can choose what you need in the moment. You are the expert in your patient experience. And when you become a member and you see all of the supports that's coming up that week or that month, you get to pick what's right for you. It's a la carte. It's not us telling you what we think you need. Nope. It's you saying, I really need this week. And then the next week, oh, I really need help in emotional eating, or nope, I really need to go to that cohort because I need to learn about time management, or I need to learn about burnout. And that's what's on the schedule this week. So you get to pick and choose. It's a choose your own adventure, and you are in the driver's seat of the support that you need. I mean, we think it's pretty rad. Most people think it's rad, but you know,
you can try it then and convince it by your own, and convince about that by your own. Right.
Yep, exactly.
14-day free trial.
Yep.
Jump in and see.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. If you are curious about it, absolutely sign up today, make your account. You have 2 weeks to try it for free, and you will have the time to interact with Rodolfo and all of the other amazing experts that teach in BariNation. So we invite you to do so. You can send us
do a
a
lot
DM.
in 14 days.
Oh my God, you could do so much in 14 days. I think in the next 14 days, I think there's over like 40 live events that are coming up.
Yeah.
It's insane. But I digress. Rodolfo, thank you so much for joining us today. As always, this conversation is just extremely powerful. And it's just so helpful to hear information in a new lens, right? Yes, only 8% of resolutions, see themselves met at the end of the year. We want to focus on how we can change that in our own lives. And I think you have definitely given us some tools today that will help us do just that. So thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure.
Jason, my friend, you want to take us out?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, Rodolfo, we, just like April said, we appreciate your wisdom, your knowledge, your time, all of the things that you do for us, with us. It's amazing. To the community, we appreciate you guys for everything that you do. We could not do what we do without your support, and we appreciate that. We will never stop saying how much we appreciate it, because it helps us every single day, and we can't thank you guys enough. And just remember, at the end of the day, you've got this, we've got you, and we will see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, friend.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Yes, totally. And to me, everything starts with being in the present moment and connecting, as we were discussing and as we discussed in the 2023 cohort, right? And in the meetup, we want to be every day, actually. It's a matter of being connected with our emotions constantly. So, for example, aware, right? Or I want to be a person, I start connecting to my body, and I satisfy those needs, right? hungry, I will eat. And if I'm not hungry, I will find an alternative option to satisfy my needs, right?
Yeah.
What people need to do is to start focusing on what they need to change in terms of the actions. For example, people want to get a diet and follow the diet. Not noticing if focusing on that, maybe they will be stressed. They will be restricting themselves, and that is not sustainable in the long run. So they will give up at some point, right? That's unavoidably. What we need to do is to start thinking about who do we want to be and what are the actions now in this moment, right? And be aligned with that person. And what I will do is listen to my body, then I will stick to my needs, and I will to do is to follow the diet. And we think that the diet itself is to give us the result. If you do the diet and then don't want to be in the long run, that's not going to work.